Well, child, what have you to say about it?
Oh, it's very pretty, Papa. Did you really do it yourself?
Yes, of course.
Oh, it's very clever. I, too, have learned to paint.
She draws very well.
She's grown.
Yes, but I think she has finished now.
Ah, I'm not sorry. I prefer women like books. Very good, but not too long. Go into the garden, my mignon, and gather some flowers for these good ladies.
Do as your father bids, my child.
You've done well with her. She's really very pretty.
Oh, she's perfect. She's no faults.
Of all those we shall lose this year, she is the one we shall miss the most.
We shall hold her up to the new ones as our example.
It's not certain that you'll lose her yet.
We should be happy to believe that.
Do you go back to Rome tonight?
Yes, we take the train back. We have much to do, though it is very tempting to stay in Florence the night.
Aren't you tired?
Oh, we're never tired.
Well, sometimes. Thank you, my child. They'll comfort us on our way to Rome.
Oh, but they won't last. I wish I could give you something that would last.
You've given us a good memory of yourself. That will last. Thank you for receiving us so well.
Signora Mère, signor.
Madame Mère.
Yes, it is I. Come to welcome you home.
The good sisters have brought her home and are now taking their leave.
I remember you, madame. You came sometimes to see Pansy.
Yes.
This lady is a great friend of ours. We have much faith in her judgment. She'll help me to decide whether my daughter shall return to the convent after the end of the holidays.
I hope you will decide in our favor, madame. And now, if you will permit us to retire.
Stay with me, child. Come here. I hope you will always wear gloves. Young girls usually dislike them.
Oh, I used to, but I don't anymore.
I'll make you a present of a dozen. You fond of pretty things?
Yes, but not too fond, I hope.
Will you miss your convent mothers?
Oh, yes, very much.
Well, perhaps someday you'll have another mother.
Go into the garden, child. We'll see you in a moment. How long have you been in Florence?
A week. I'm staying at the Palazzo Crescentini, Mrs. Touchett's place.
You're looking extremely well.
I think I always look the same.
I thought you were staying in Rome.
I have a reason for being in Florence.
With friends?
Yes.
I never knew anyone whose life touched so many other lives.
What do you call one's life?
Oh, I call your life your ambitions.
My ambitions are mostly for you.
Then they're unnecessary.
You are indolent. It's your worst fault.
No, no. It's my best.
How long is it since you made a new acquaintance?
Not since I made yours.
Well, it's time you made another.
What good would it do me?
It will amuse you. And you may profit by it.
Are you sure?
It will depend on you.
Ah, you forget my
And
indolence.
don't be tiresome. No one knows better than you what's worth an effort.
Who is your friend?
The person I came to Florence to see. She's a niece of Mrs. Touchett's. I met her some months ago in England. We struck up a friendship.
It sounds almost as if you like her.
I do. And so will you. She's beautiful, accomplished, clever, and she has a fortune.
You've not looked at the easel.
Is it the Venetian house, one of last year's sketches?
You'll guess everything, don't you? What do you want to do with,
Miss Archer, put her in your way.
You've never liked my drawings, have you?
It's the only thing you do. It's very little.
The only thing?
Now, your rooms are perfect. I'm always struck by that. You have exquisite taste for your collection.
I'm sick of my exquisite taste.
Nevertheless, you must let Miss Archer see it. I've told her about it.
Did you say she was rich?
She has £70,000.
Has it been counted?
There's no doubt of it, I assure you.
You really are a remarkable woman. And you say she has looks?
Come and see for yourself. Make a beginning.
Of what?
Naturally. I want you to marry her.
You touch me with your ambitions. Very well, then. Get me an invitation.
Ralph?
Cousin!
When did you arrive?
Not long.
You look tired, but better than when I last saw you.
And you? Strange, a little older.
Oh, I think that's a good thing.
Well, why not?
Isn't this beautiful?
Trust my mother to live in something like this.
Oh, have you seen her?
Well, briefly. As I arrived, she was going for a rest. She said I may visit her at 7. And what about Florence?
And what about Florence? Oh, it is too much.
Yes, I entirely agree. I find all Italy too much of a good thing.
Oh, I didn't mean that. It's just overwhelming. How long are you staying?
Oh, for a while. If you'll let me show you Florence.
I should love it. And it will stop your mother complaining that I walk about too much alone. Ralph, there's something I want to ask you. I've been meaning to ask it for a long time, ever since your father died.
Well, ask away then.
Did you know your father intended to leave me so much money?
What does it matter?
You did know.
Yes, he told me.
But why did he do it?
Why? As a kind of compliment.
Compliment of what?
On your so beautifully existing.
He thought too highly of me.
Highly, that's all. Does it trouble you?
Do you think it good for me to be made suddenly so rich?
I'm delighted. I think it very good for you to have means.
Are you really sure you know what's good for me?
You know, you really mustn't do this to yourself.
Do what?
Question your conscience so much. Leave it for great occasions. Don't try so hard to form your character. It's like trying to pull open a tender young rose. Live as you like best. Your character will take care of itself. You've too much power of thought, cousin. It's your only danger.
Is thought a danger?
When it's self-indulgent.
I try to care more about the world than I do about myself, but I always come back to myself. It's because I'm afraid. A large fortune means freedom, and I'm afraid of that.
And it means a certain power.
I'm not sure it's not a greater happiness to be powerless.
Only for the weak.
And how do you know that I am not weak?
Well, if you are, I'm awfully sold.
But surely, Gilbert, modern music was created out of the despair of the Italian people. It was a refuge against foreign oppression.
So they say. I instinctively distrust the despair of the Italians. They're a very difficult people to oppress. I think there must have been more despair amongst their oppressors. And what sort of music did they create?
Mr. Osmond affects to despise the Italians. You must ask him then why he chooses to live in Italy.
It's the only possible mode of existence here. To live in Italy and to adore the Italians is to invite disaster. But I'm sure Miss Archer is not yet weary of them.
I find them fascinating.
Of course they are. They've contributed more to the culture of the Western world than any other single nation. But I know no connoisseur of their arts who can abide them. It's a perpetual mystery. A mystery that would take too long to solve. It was very kind of you to invite me.
I hope you will come again.
That would give me great pleasure.
Then please do.
Madame Mail consents to come to my villa one day next week and drink tea in the garden. It would give me great pleasure if you too would come.
That is very kind of you.
It's thought quite pretty, and I have one or two pieces that might interest you.
Your collections are unsurpassed in Florence, Gilbert. I think we can allow you to say that.
Perhaps Madame Mail has told you I have a daughter. She's only just come out of convent. I should so like you to know her.
I would be delighted. If Madame Mer will fix a day, I'll come with her.
Oh, please don't disturb yourself. I must confess, it's been a policy of mine to avoid company. But meeting you has given me more pleasure than I can say. Thank you. Goodbye.
My dear, you were charming. You were just as one would have wished.
I am under no obligation that I know of to charm Mr. Osmond.
No, of course not. The obligation's not to him, but to yourself. I mean, a young girl in your position must know many people. One's development depends on it. At the top of the list, one must willy-nilly place Gilbert Osmond. Did you not like him?
Well enough.
Well, he's one of the cleverest and most agreeable men when he chooses in Europe, and I know most of them. You know, you're quick to take offense sometimes.
I am sorry if you think so.
Has Ralph offered a contrary opinion of Mr. Osmond?
I have not discussed Mr. Osmond with Ralph. Why do you ask?
I just wondered. He doesn't like me, you know. Oh, I don't blame him. But he sometimes looks at my friends with the same jaundiced eye.
Ralph looks at us all in the same way. It's his manner and his charm.
Well, now there I disagree with you. Perhaps that's the difference in our ages.
You don't like him.
Oh, one can't choose but like Mr. Touchett. He insists on it. I confess, though, I sometimes grow weary of his weariness. Perhaps he'd improve if he found something to do.
You forget that he is ill.
True, his consumption is his career, so to speak, a position he's taken up and works hard at. Oh, dear. I'm afraid this is my day for offending you.
I thought you two were friends.
We are. We make no secret of it. We smile a great deal when we meet. I sometimes think that prevents us from laughing out loud.
At what?
Well, we see through each other, you see. We're like two panes of glass coming face to face unexpectedly.
You talk as obliquely as he does.
Perhaps. But then you're young. You can be direct. I'd give a great deal to be your age again.
But surely your whole life's in front of you.
The best part's gone. And for nothing.
I cannot believe that.
Well, what have I got? Husband, child, possessions, fortunes. None of them.
You have many friends. You have great talents.
My talents bring me nothing but the pretense of movement in a life that's still as a pond. And as for friends, you'll be one till you find a better use for your friendship.
You must see that I don't, then.
Yes. I'll make an effort to keep you.
Tell me something. What should you like to do that you haven't already done?
So much.
Were your ambitions so great?
I'd make myself ridiculous talking about them. I'm old and stale and faded. I'm of no more interest than last week's magazine. You're young and fresh and of today. You've actuality. Oh, I had it once. We all have it for an hour. You, however, will have it a little longer.
It is impossible to think of you as old or stale or faded.
Oh, my dear. Je viens de loin. I come from the old, old world. I know it. I'd be a fool if I didn't. And how do I know it? From the pleasure I get in talking with younger people. It's a nice compensation. If you can't have youth within you, you can have it outside. The young touch me. You touch me. I've great hopes for you. Do you find that impertinent?
Of course not. But what hopes have you for me? Were they the same as your own were?
No. I had only ambitions. Hopes are better.
To marry and live happily ever after?
No. Just to mold the world a little nearer to your heart's desire.
Is that so hard to do?
The secret lies in knowing what the desire of the heart really is. It can speak in so many voices. And as in life, the loudest is seldom the truest. I suppose that's why I've always admired Gilbert Osmond. He seems to me to have listened to the right voice. Such creatures are rare. That's why I wanted you to meet, to like him. Because you too are rare.
Well, I did like him.
Then I'm satisfied. Now I must go and write some letters. I'll see you at dinner.
Should we not fix a time to visit Mr. Osmond?
I nearly forgotten. What day next week could you choose to go?
Wednesday or Thursday?
Then let's make it Wednesday. Thursday I have some friends coming from Rome.
Your guests have deserted you.
Yes. Do you know Mr. Osmond, Ralph?
Not well, why?
I just wondered what you thought of him.
Ask Madame Merrill. She knows him better than I.
I am asking you. Who is he exactly?
He's a vague, unexplained American who's lived here for years.
Why, vague?
It's really me who's vague. I know very little about him. He used to live in Rome, until Rome became too vulgar. He has a great horror of vulgarity. That's his special line.
He has a daughter, I believe.
He married young and lost his wife. He also has a sister. He's married to some small count or other. I believe she supplies the ladies here with considerable gossip.
Does he have a profession?
Fastidiousness. Does he interest you?
He has invited me to visit him. Madame Merle is to take me.
Oh, well, you can go anywhere with her. She knows none but the best.
Why do you always adopt this exaggerated attitude towards him?
Do I? Well, then it's because I find her merits exaggerated.
By whom? Me?
No, by Madame Merrill.
I can't accept that. If ever there was a woman who made small claims...
Precisely. Her claims are exaggeratedly small in view of her obvious talents.
I don't understand you.
Well, then I find her modesties exaggerated. I wish she would sometimes boast a little. At least it would be a fault.
In other words, you can find nothing bad to say about her.
Absolutely nothing. Apart from the fact that she's to be highly recommended.
You don't get on with her.
On the contrary, I adore her. But then I taste her in sips. I let her stand and sip again. Well, she's a woman of all the talents. One simply wonders why she hasn't won any prizes.
You are determined that I should choose for myself, aren't you?
Please go in.
Amy? Oh, my dear, how pretty you're looking today.
This is my sister, Countess Gemini.
How do you do?
Hello.
And this is my little girl, Pansy, who's just come out of convent.
Hello, Pansy.
You'll believe I'm pleased to see you when I tell you I only came because I knew you'd be here. I don't come to see my brother. I let him come to see me.
She claims the hill reduces her horses to a state of exhaustion.
Well, it's very disagreeable to hear one's horses wheezing. Makes one feel they're not what they should be.
Will you sit in the middle?
I shouldn't sit there. That chair's not what it looks. Oh, there are some very good seats here, but there are also some horrors.
I don't see any horrors anywhere. I see many beautiful things.
I've nothing bad, I think. But I have not what I should have liked.
Oh, poor Gilbert with his old curtains and crucifixes.
I'll order some tea. You must be very tired.
I am not in the least tired.
Well, you'll be tired when you go home if he shows you everything and lectures you into the bargain.
At least I shall have learned something.
Very little, I suspect. But my sister is afraid of learning anything.
Well, I think I know enough already. Too much knowledge makes one unhappy.
Oh, you shouldn't undervalue knowledge in front of Pansy.
Oh, Pansy will never know harm. Pansy's a little convent flower.
Well, know as much as you like. To me, it's all a question of feeling.
Do you live here, Countess?
Yes. Do you intend to settle here?
Would you advise it?
None of us could answer that question without bias. Italy's a place that people pass through. Although we're always willing to persuade the more agreeable ones to stay.
It does spoil some people, I think.
In what way?
It tends to make one idle and dilettantish and second-rate.
Those are hardly terms anyone could apply to you, Gilbert.
I'm not sure. I think I might have been better if I had lived somewhere else. Sometimes I feel like an old rusty key without a lock. It polishes me to talk to you.
Shall we take tea in the garden?
Why not? Pansy, dear, tell them to serve tea outside. Are they not coming down?
Oh, I expect so.
I suppose I should congratulate you.
On what?
Don't you have a little plan that you think is coming along rather well?
You know, I never do understand you very well.
Often through choice.
You say things no one else would.
I think it better that you do understand me.
Why?
I might interfere with your little plan.
You think me more calculating than I am.
I like her.
Who?
You're Miss Archer.
So do I.
You've a strange way of showing it.
What, by introducing her to you?
Indeed, that is perhaps the best thing you could have done for her.
Oh, my dear Amy, I do advise you not to agitate yourself. The matter concerns three people of much stronger will than you.
3. Is Miss Archer of such strong will in this matter?
As much as we.
Then I must persuade her to resist you.
Don't be absurd. She's not exposed to deception or compulsion.
I'm not so sure. You and Osmond are capable of anything. Not alone, perhaps, but together, you're like a chemical combination.
You'd better leave us alone, then.
I intend to. But I shall speak to that girl.
What on earth has got into you?
I told you. I like her.
I don't think she likes you.
You are dangerous. Even alone.
Is it really a Correggio?
Yes, you can see his name down here in the corner. I found it painted on a panel in a house I visited and daubed over by some idiot. I bought it quite cheaply.
You have many beautiful things.
There are more if you care to come back.
I think I shall.
I hear you have plans for going round the world.
Oh, I'm ashamed of my plans. I make a new one every day.
I only ever made one, to be as quiet as possible. Not to struggle or strive, to resign myself. To be content with little.
Well, that amounts to a renunciation.
Perhaps.
Why?
I took my measure early in life. I was poor and not a man of genius. If I couldn't be at the top, I had no desire to be in the middle.
But you are very gifted. Your knowledge of the treasures of Florence alone
It would make me a perfect museum guide. Oh, I'm not complaining. But I no longer have only myself to think of. My daughter is growing up, and I shall have to do what's best for her. She is a treasure. She is my great happiness.
It must have been very hard for you, losing your wife so early.
You're very sympathetic.
Do you believe Papa would allow me to make the tea?
Your father's ideas are unfathomable to me, my child. Ask Madame Merle. She understands them better.
I think so, Pansy.
And what do you think of your visitor?
Well, she's Papa's, not mine.
Oh, Miss Archer came to see you as well.
Well then, I like her very much.
And do you think she pleases your father?
Oh, really, Countess? Go and call them into tea, Pansy.
If Miss Archer's to become the girl's mother, it's interesting to know if she likes her.
If your brother marries again, it won't be for the sake of the child. She's nearly 17. She'll need a husband herself soon.
And I suppose you'll find her one, too.
We both will, I hope.
I'm not so in love with husbands as you appear to be.
Naturally, I mean a good one.
There are none. Osmond won't be a good one either. I must say you're fabulous, the pair of you. Do you imagine he can marry anyone he picks out?
He can try.
His pretensions are incredible. On what are they founded? I'm his sister and I don't know.
A man's appeal is not always evident to his sister.
Well, I hope she refuses him. It'll take him down a little. Unless you imagine her to have fallen in love already.
All the same, I don't like it. He's called here 5 times during the last 2 weeks. He never felt the urge to call more than twice a year before.
But then Osmond is a student of the exquisite. You've never had so rare an apparition staying here before.
I don't know what he's a student of. I hardly know the man, but his pretensions are pretty obvious.
True.
Doesn't seem to worry you.
No.
Oh, I hope she won't listen to him.
Listening's one thing. Answering's another. She'll have suitors wherever she goes.
I hope they'll have clearer backgrounds than Mr. Osmond's.
Well, you can't dictate a thing like that. He's good company. He's clever in a way and interesting.
He has no money to speak of.
You can't expect that to weigh heavily on her. She won't judge a man by his poverty any more than she'll judge him by his wealth. She's dismissed 2 already. She'll dismiss 3 and 4 and 5. But she'll keep the door ajar and see all comers.
You use too many figures of speech for my liking.
Only to illuminate the point.
There are only 2 words I respect. Yes and no. If she's going to marry Mr. Osmond, she'd do it in spite of your comparisons.
True enough. But I don't think she will. You continually underestimate her. The best thing is to leave her alone.
Oh, I'm not likely to offer her advice. She pleases herself when it comes to it.
And in pleasing herself, she could find no harsher critic to satisfy.
Oh, intelligent men are a wonder to me. They invent a whole philosophy of life and they don't know how to get on with their wives. What good will all her fine thoughts be if she marries Mr. Osmond for the beauty of his opinions and his autograph of Michelangelo?
I'd take all that more seriously if I thought there'd be some suitors to whom you wouldn't object.
I want simple proof of a poor man's disinterest in money when he takes an interest in a rich girl. That's all.
But there's no proof that would satisfy you.
Perhaps not. Frankly, I can't think what you and your father were doing when you worked up a situation like this.
My dear mother, I'm not afraid. She'll make fools of us all. She started out on an expedition. She won't change course at a signal from Osmond. She may slacken speed for an hour, but before we know it, she'll be steaming away again. If you'll pardon the metaphor.
Are you sure you won't stay and have some refreshment?
Oh, it's very kind of you, but I think not.
Oh, couldn't we stay, Papa? I should so love to see the palace.
Oh, you must come again, Pansy, and I'll show you all over it.
You've seen enough treasures for one day.
It has been a most fascinating afternoon.
I have to support that. Even I wasn't bored, and I've seen it all 1,000 times.
One can only be bored with the treasures of Florence through the limitations of one's knowledge. The more one knows, the more fascinating they become.
You really ought to do a book on them.
Oh, that's different. To share one's knowledge with a few well-chosen friends is like discovering it all over again. But to share it with a mass of anonymous readers, that could only be a chore.
Isabel Archer!
Henrietta! Well, when did you arrive?
This afternoon!
Well, there's a postal service in Italy. Couldn't you have made use of it?
It travels much slower than I do.
Well, come down.
Who is that?
Miss Stackpole, an old friend. She's a journalist covering Europe for an American magazine.
How quaint.
Oh, I can assure you, Henrietta is anything but quaint. Oh, how wonderful to see you. Miss Stackpole, this is Madame Moore,
Buongiorno.
Mr. Osmond,
How do you do, sir?
and his daughter Pansy.
Why, hello there.
Well, how long have you been in Italy?
Quite a while. I've been working my way through all the towns in northern Italy.
Alone.
No, with a friend. Mr. Bantling. He's been an absolute dear. He's inside now talking to Ralph.
And what do you think of Italy, Miss Stackpole?
Oh, well, that's hard to say in a few words. But in many ways, it's easier to write about than, say, England. The English are very opaque.
Unlike the Italians?
And the Americans. Unless they live abroad. And then they become opaque, too. I think it's their sense of guilt for having left America.
Oh, well, I think I'd better take my sense of guilt home out of Miss Stackpole's probing eye. It's been a most pleasant afternoon.
For me, too. Goodbye, Pansy.
Goodbye, Miss Thatcher.
I'll walk with you to the gate.
Goodbye now. You don't look any different for being rich.
Should I?
I must confess that when your letter finally reached me, I was shattered.
And very disapproving.
Well, if Mr. Touchett had consulted me, I would have said, don't do it. Leave it to somebody you care less for.
Do you think it will ruin me?
I think it'll confirm your worst tendencies.
And what are those?
Romantic illusions about yourself.
And how about yours? Should we go and see him?
Mr. Bantling? Bosh, he's nothing more than a very gay companion.
I have a feeling, Bantling, you're hooked.
I wouldn't say that, old boy. Just deuced good friends. She's a remarkable woman all same.
What on earth do you talk about?
What does Miss Stackpole talk about?
No, I know what she talks about, but what do you talk about?
Well, I'll tell you something, old boy. You see, I've had a bit of a classical education. That gives me an advantage, don't you know? Americans don't really go for it.
So you've come into your own since you got to Italy?
Exactly. She relies on me a lot there. It'll be even better when we get to Rome, of course.
So you are going to Rome, Mr. Bantling?
Hello, Miss Archer.
Hello.
By Jove, you're looking well. Yes, I was just telling your cousin. We're off in the next few days.
Why don't you come, too?
What a splendid idea. May's an ideal time to see Rome. I'll come along myself.
All right.
Well, then, that's all arranged. I like things to be done quickly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me something. Is that curious creature making love to my niece?
Gilbert Osmond. Heaven help us, what an idea.
Hadn't occurred to you?
No. You make me feel an idiot, but I confess it hadn't. I wonder if it's occurred to Isabel.
I'll ask her.
No, I shouldn't put it into her head. The thing would be to ask Mr. Osmond.
Oh, I can't do that.
Why not?
Because it's none of my business, given Isabel's situation. And I have no desire to have him tell me so.
I'll ask him then.
Well, what business for him is it of yours?
None whatever. So much less my business than anyone else's that I feel freer to ask him.
Well, let me know the result. Either way, I shall speak to Isabel.
Don't be too quick with her. You may inflame her imagination.
I'm not likely to inflame anybody's imagination. But I have an obligation towards her, and I intend to discharge it.
She may not thank you for it.
Oh, I'm not looking for her gratitude. I want her to use her common sense. The man has nothing in the world to offer but a dozen or two early masters and a more or less pert little daughter.
Now, it's not necessary to drag in the girl.
She's there already. She has no money. She can't expect to marry here. Isabel will find herself supplying her with a dowry if she's not careful.
Perhaps. But you're leaping ahead a little.
My niece is the sort of girl that needs a mission in life. Well and good. But I'd sooner it wasn't to prove how noble a stepmother can be.
She'd make a charming stepmother. Still, I agree with you. She should not decide on her mission too soon.
Fortunately, she's going to Rome in a few days' time.
Oh?
And then I have plans for some journeys which I hope she'll fall in with.
Don't be too quick with her. You know, it sometimes has the wrong effect.
I shall do what I think right. If necessary, I shall stop him coming here. And that sister of his.
Now, you can hardly blame him for his sister.
I blame him for as far as he allows her to be seen in his presence in decent houses.
Now you go too far. If you're to exclude every lady who's mismanaged her little affairs, you may as well shut up house. Besides, she has a horrid husband.
Don't they all?
Some are worse than others.
Well, I shall do my best to see that my niece will be in want of no such excuse.
It is very beautiful here. You chose your house well.
It suits me. People complain that I'm fastidious. I don't think that's a bad thing to be in a world where vulgarity is the order of the day.
I'm going to Rome
When?
on Sunday. I have never been before.
Oh, you like it. It's been spoiled, of course, but you still rave about it.
Ought I to dislike it then?
Oh, no, of course not. It's been spoiled so often. I should like to be in Rome with you. It would give me great pleasure to see you on that wonderful ground.
You might come then.
Oh, but you'll have friends with you.
Of course. I shan't be alone.
Well, if I did come, what would I do with my little girl?
Leave her here.
Oh, I don't think I'd like that, though there is a very good old lady who looks after her.
Bring her with you.
Well, she'd just come back from the convent there, and I think she's a bit young for journeys of pleasure.
I was brought up differently.
Oh, with you it succeeded. If I thought it would make her resemble you, I think I'd be inclined to give her her head.
Don't make her resemble me. Keep her like herself.
I suppose I could send her to my sister's.
Would she like that?
Well, she wouldn't mind. In any case, it wouldn't be for very long, would it?
It's been for a long time, I should imagine. Yes. There's a lot to say about that. I wonder if he's got She wants me to go to Rome with her.
To go with her?
Well, to be there while she's there.
Did you suggest it?
In a way, I gave her the chance, and she took it. She's encouraging. She's very encouraging.
Congratulations. But don't rejoice too soon.
You smell problems?
There'll be opposition, naturally.
But Mrs. Touchett? Who else?
The son?
Oh, he's a bit of a donkey.
No, he's clever.
Well, it's no more than you'd expect.
Your sister's rather hostile.
There's jealousy, that's all. She'll be ineffective as usual.
Of course, you'll go to Rome.
Ah, it makes one work, this idea of yours.
Don't pretend you're not enjoying it. No one knows better than you what's worth an effort.
You forget I value my indolence.
Don't be so ungrateful. You've made a good impression, I can see that.
The girl is not disagreeable.
Is that all you can find to say about her?
Isn't it enough? Do I usually say more?
She's not the usual sort.
Well, then, she's charming. I've scarcely met anyone more graceful, more open and direct.
I'm glad to hear you say it, if you mean it.
Why?
The better you like her, the better I shall feel, naturally.
You seem rather fond of her.
I am.
Then why the little scheme?
If she must marry someone, why shouldn't it be you?
Well, I like her, so you can rest assured. She has only one fault.
What's that?
Too many ideas.
I told you she was clever.
Fortunately, they're rather bad ones.
What do you mean, fortune?
Well, if they have to be sacrificed.
You know, sometimes you're just too exquisite.
having regrets.
But I am frightened sometimes when I think of her.
You can't draw back now.
But you must do the rest yourself.
I shall do it.